discuss more about this with let me bring in Democratic Congressman Donald McEachin of Virginia. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, and let me first say that our hearts and our prayers are still not only with the victims in Las Vegas, but also the victims in Texas. I can't imagine anything more horrible than praying to your God and having someone interrupt that with gun violence. So our hearts and our prayers go out to them.
Absolutely. One of the elements of all of this is if folks have been trying to learn how this happened and more about this shooter, is that the Air Force did not report his domestic violence conviction, did not report that to the national database that would have prevented him from getting a gun. In the Senate now, John Cornyn, number 2 Republican, he's looking to put together a measure to improve reporting to the background check system to make sure this doesn't happen again. In the House, though, Speaker Ryan, he says that no new measures are needed, that the laws currently on the books just need to be enforced because he shouldn't have been able to get a gun. Which is it, Congressman?
I think the Speaker's wrong. I think the Senator has a point. And I think further than that, from my assessment, I am not convinced that the Air Force nor its sister services actually have a charge of domestic violence like we do in civil court, or civilian court, I should say. They sort of lump it all under assault. And if it's not clear to the person, the clerk who's putting it into the database, what type of assault it is, which it can easily be misunderstood or lost in that sort of a scenario. I think that's how these things happen. And so what I would suggest is we need to go into the military's code of uniform justice and actually have a domestic violence charge.
Well, let me ask you a little bit more kind of about the military's response to this. The VA secretary, he was asked about this shooter in an interview today. Here's what he said about him. Listen to this.
I do not consider him a veteran. I consider him a criminal. And frankly, people who have worn the uniform don't want to be associated with people like that.
And Secretary Shulkin also says the VA has nothing to do with this. But someone dropped the ball, though. It seems very clear. Should people lose their jobs over at the Pentagon over this?
Well, I think we need to have more investigation before we say heads should roll over at the Pentagon. And so I'm not prepared to answer that question today. But I would say this, is that I would hope that we would also have mental services available for folks, whether they're discharged honorably or dishonorably. If folks need mental health treatment, they need to get it. They need to be in a secure facility while they're getting that. And so I'm not sure where the Secretary is coming from with that comment. It's not in context for me, but it's too early to say whether heads should roll at the Pentagon or not.
Definitely more investigation, though. Let me ask you, though, on a very different topic, but an important one today, as you, of course, are from Virginia. A big night in your state of Virginia, big Democratic wins, a Democratic wave pretty much crashed through. What do you think was behind the wins last night?
Well, you know, we did a lot of things right last night. We had a terrific ticket in Ralph Northam, Justin Fairfax, and Mark Herring. We ran more candidates for the House of Delegates than we've ever had before. I think we had 88 candidates in the field. It's a 100-member chamber. I think that's twice as many as we've ever run before. So we decided to compete everywhere, and the results showed. We spoke to people about issues, but also we can't forget the Trump effect. You know, Donald Trump continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. A lot of people came out because they were shocked at what happened last November, and they were determined not to let it happen again in Virginia. You know, last night Virginians decided to reject hate, to reject divisiveness, and to affirm inclusiveness. And I'm so proud of my Commonwealth.
Well, let me ask you, Congressman, finally. You told Politico last night after the wins, we're going to win the House of Representatives. I mean, maybe it was just in the heat of the moment, but that seems a pretty bold claim 1 year out from a midterm. You still stand by that today?
Well, it's the cool of the day on the next day, and I still say that when 2019 comes, the Democrats will be in charge of the House of Representatives. We have the same things we see happening. The DCCC has spoken to more candidates in this cycle than it has in the last 2 cycles. The energy is there. The pent-up frustration with the Trump administration is there. All the same ingredients that we saw play out last night in Virginia, from having good candidates, from fielding candidates across the board in all sorts of different districts, will play out in 2018. So you heard it here first.
Congressman, we'll have you on and we'll keep the tape. I can promise you that.